talk about shooting in London? That's an area that we don't usually see a lot. It kind of reminded me of like The Wire in London.
Right.
Can you tell me how you prepared for that role?
Yes, I got to hang out with a real lady police detective who's the only female detective inspector in the East London, and she was fantastic, and it was incredibly useful spending time with her. And you know, so I was aware also of the kind of pitfalls and the cliches that I could fall into portraying this female cop, and I wanted to somehow make a character that was a kind of a lady policewoman for the kind of 2010, as opposed to the sort of Helen Mirren, you know, the character, the archetypal sort of ball-breaking woman in a man's world that Helen Mirren did so brilliantly in Prime Suspect, but it had to sort of feel a bit different from that somehow, and although, you know, it still is a woman in a man's world, that, you know, as I said, this woman, the real woman that I was tailing, was the only female police detective in the whole of East London. But it's more, it's sort of it's less black and white, less kind of obvious discrimination. You know, it's more complex what goes on, but there's still, you know, layers of subtlety and you know, there's still, it is all there. There's undercurrent of discrimination and stuff, and it's still very difficult to get ahead as a woman in that world. But it just I felt like I had to sort of find a new way into that character, and so she was really, really helpful. And what was amazing was getting to, I mean, she showed me tapes of interviews that she'd done with youths. It's very, very similar. She was fighting a case, or that she was, you know, trying to bring charges against a gang of youths that were not dissimilar at all to those in the movie. I mean, not quite so sort of terrifying and horrifying as the ones in the movie, but you know, at the time that I was spending time with her, she was dealing with a gang of youths who'd stabbed a young boy in a supermarket and killed him for no real reason. You know, it was completely sort of unnecessary act of violence, and was going through exactly the same problems as my character in the movie, which is, you know, trying to get to a point where she can charge one of them, but, you know, because it's all captured on the CCTV or whatever, but they're all in their hoodies, and you can't tell which one actually did it. And then they all, you know, close ranks, and they have this mantra, which is no comment, no comment, no comment. And the thing I didn't realize about sort of being a police detective is that you have, it's a kind of ticking clock. Like, you could have only, I mean, I suppose I did know it somewhere in the back of my mind, but you're very aware of it when you're hanging out with them, that they have, you know, only a sort of finite number of hours in which they're allowed to question people, and they have to be incredibly canny about how they do it, and at what point they're going to call people in, and how to somehow wheedle some sort of confession out of these guys who are actually really adept at dealing with police questioning, and it was fascinating, all that. And so a lot of the scenes that we did, the interrogation scenes, were improvised. In fact, they were all improvised, and I lifted directly kind of a lot of dialogue that I'd seen her, Jackie, my police detective, use in her interrogations and questioning of criminals, and the guys playing the youths in the movie, who I think are just brilliant in this film, are, you know, had pretty much all of them had led lives not dissimilar to the characters that they were playing in, or come from, you know, those kind of backgrounds, and so they were very au fait with how to riff on the theme of being stuck in a cell with a police officer, and so those improvised scenes was so exciting to be a part of.